prisons are some of the most disturbing places you can find yourself, and often seem to have different systems and rules from the outside world. Most of its activities go on without us ever knowing about them, but some are preserved in the films of cameras. What you are about to witness are some of the most disturbing moments ever caught on camera. Some of this footage will shock you. Others will leave you both confused and thrilled. Come with us as we look at the 20 most disturbing prison moments caught on camera. Number 20. Taking out the trash. If you have any doubt that inmates would try to escape at the first chance they get, it would be cleared after you watch this. In 2018, surveillance video caught the moment two inmates at Houston County Jail made a break for it while taking out the trash. Shane Joseph and Willie Ames Driver were assigned to garbage duty and carried trash cans outside the prison walls under the supervision of a guard. Surprisingly, the guard gave them some freedom, although they were unshackled and seemed disinterested. Sensing the opportunity, the inmates waited until the guard was paying less attention, then seized the moment to make their escape. However, their chance at freedom was short-lived. 2 days later, Driver was caught in a nearby apartment, while Shane was found hiding in a barn 3 miles away. Number 19. The long jump to freedom. Never has an action screamed guilty like Quantrill's jump from a 16-foot-high window to escape jail. Several things could have gone wrong. He could have dislocated a joint, broken a bone, or even broken his neck. Yet in that moment, all that mattered was running from the law. In October 2018, Rock County officers executed a search warrant on W. Beloit Street in Oxfordville, where they arrested 17-year-old Quantrill Schwartzlow. The teenager was apprehended on suspicion of felony and strangulation, with emphasis on suspicion. Apparently, he was suspected to have strangled his sister and was taken into custody at the Rock County Sheriff's Office. Quantrill was taken to the interrogation room, and while he waited for the detectives, he realized he could open one of the windows. Moments later, Quantrill made the split-second decision to leap out of the window, ignoring the fact that the window was 1 story high. Despite his rough fall, Quantrill surprisingly sustained no injuries. He quickly got back on his feet and sprinted away like Usain Bolt. He was rearrested at a friend's house and shipped off to jail. I doubt an interrogation was really necessary to determine his guilt. Why would an innocent man risk a 16-foot fall when he isn't practicing parkour? Number 18. The 3 white men. 3 inmates, all dressed in white, are caught on an alley camera casually walking out of a Texan detention facility. A few minutes earlier, they had escaped from their cells with an insider's help. The inmates, Aaron Davis Clark, Victor Andrew Apodaca, and Ricky Ramon Sena, were all serving prison sentences for various crimes ranging from aggravated battery to drug possession, and we can bet that these were not one-time criminals. Their escape plan included an accomplice, Officer Serena Dadson, who they had charmed into helping them and was instrumental to their escape. Dadson had turned off the prison alarms, unlocked the doors, and given a false head count to aid their escape. They had an 11-minute head start before the authorities discovered they were missing. Switching their prison uniforms for an all-white sporting attire, they simply strolled out of the facility and escaped. However, their freedom was short-lived. Dadson was arrested the next day about 100 miles southeast of the jail in Lubbock, Texas, and charged with 1 count of aiding a prison escape. The men were arrested 5 days later and returned to jail. It seems like the 3 white men were not wise enough to escape the long arm of the law. Number 17. Lucky break. 31-year-old Tori T. Smith has to be one of the luckiest people on earth. How else can anyone describe her escape from prison in 2009? Tori was apprehended on charges of battery and aggravated assault against her boyfriend. She was taken to the Intake and Processing Center for processing and would have been placed in central lookup afterward. The New Orleans Police Department had to use a temporary detention facility after Hurricane Katrina had destroyed its permanent center. At 4:40 p.m., an unidentified officer is seen on tape entering the building. According to sources, he had forgotten some paperwork and was rushing to get them. He closed the door slowly, but not enough to trigger the automatic locking mechanism. He did the same thing with the second door. Off camera, Tori had been watching him and quickly took the opportunity when it arose. Under the pretext of going to the bathroom, she walked through both doors without being caught. It was while she scaled the fence outside that a nurse spotted her and alerted the guards. She was eventually caught the next day and rebooked in jail on the original battery charges, as well as an additional simple escape charge. Number 16. Houdini. How hard do you think it is to free yourself from a handcuff? For many, it is almost impossible. For Amber Gonzalez, it only took a few minutes. The Waukesha police in Moreland, Wisconsin, arrested Gonzalez. She had stolen a phone at the Baymont Hotel and was locked up in a holding cell. According to Wisconsin law, she was entitled to bail, so she was handcuffed in the cell and allowed to arrange her bail on a cell phone. In a daring turn of events, Gonzalez pulled off a trick that would have stunned Houdini. With a determination, which truthfully is admirable, she wiggled and twisted her hand until she could free herself from the handcuffs. Freed of her manacles, she quickly bolted out the door and used the keys to access an emergency exit. From there, she was as free as a bird. Despite her skillful escape, Amber Gonzalez proved to be quite tactless. According to news reports, the woman ran straight into a convenience store, where she met a man who took her to the same hotel where she was captured. Working on tips from employees of both the store and hotel, the police rearrested her in an hour and took her back to the station. We can assume that Houdini got better handcuffs the second time. Number 15. Jason Cordero. In this video, the negligence of the deputy cannot be overlooked, and although it is not known, the officer definitely deserves some form of punishment from his superiors. In a courthouse in the quaint town of Rochester Hills, Michigan, Jason Cordero stands trial for disruptive conduct and retail fraud. The judge found him guilty and sentenced him to 90 days in jail. As the jury's verdict is being processed, the deputy lets his guard down and walks off, disinterested in the proceedings. Seeing his chance, Cordero runs out of the courtroom with lightning speed. By the time the deputy realizes and gives pursuit, Cordero is already running across the street while cameras record the chase. Eventually, Cordero is caught in the woods and returns to court for an even weightier sentence for charges of evading lawful custody and resisting arrest. Number 14. Window of opportunity. In 2013, Garland County Police placed Derek Estelle on its wanted list for escaping jail. How did he do it? He jumped out a window. In a videotape showing the escape, 34-year-old Estelle is seen sliding out of a window and bolting out the door. Moments earlier, an accomplice, William Harding, had walked into the station to inquire at the counter. With the officers distracted, Estelle had the perfect opportunity to jump over the counter and dive out the window. That was the first phase of an elaborate escape plan. Outside the facility, his girlfriend, Tamara Upshaw, was waiting for him in the getaway car. The attempt of correctional officers to stop them was in vain, and they drove off to freedom. Estelle and his girlfriend were eventually arrested. William Harding, who turned out to be his stepfather, and his mother, Glenda Harding, were also arrested as accomplices. It turns out that not every window of opportunity should be taken. Number 13. The Montreal helicopter escape. Vasilis Palaeokostas was a Greek criminal known as the Greek Robin Hood for giving away stolen money to the poor. He gained even more infamy for escaping twice from a high-security prison using helicopters, and apparently he inspired 2 inmates in a Canadian jail who replicated his escape in 2013. Holed up in a jail in Montreal, Canada, Benjamin Houdin Barbeau and Danny Provençal made an audacious escape in broad daylight. On the day of the escape, their accomplices hired a helicopter posing as tourists who wished to take a sightseeing trip over Mont Tremblant in the Laurentian Mountains. However, once in the air, they forced the pilot at gunpoint to fly to the prison. At the prison, they lowered ropes for the inmates. Once the men were attached, the helicopter lifted off and whisked them away to freedom. The 6-minute escape had taken place in broad daylight and had been completed without a hitch. Not even one guard shot at them. However, unlike the Greek Robin Hood, which was never caught, Barbeau and Provençal did not enjoy their newfound freedom for long. They were arrested a few hours later, along with their accomplices. The kidnapped pilot was found unharmed and rescued. Number 12. Eli Villalobos. At 1:40 p.m. on February 27, 2021, police officers found Eli Villalobos under a blanket in an empty apartment. It ended a 2-hour manhunt for the murderer who had escaped from a courthouse on the same day. Surveillance video captured when Villalobos bolted out of an Oregon courthouse during his pre-trial. According to Oregon law, suspects had to be unshackled during the jury selection process to guarantee fair decisions from the jurors. However, immediately after he was unshackled, Villalobos made a mad dash with 2 deputies in hot pursuit. A security camera showed the suspect running down the hallway and exiting through a staff-only entrance. A manhunt was quickly instituted with several deputies, K-9 units, and drone hot on his trail. He escaped capture twice, but a tip from a resident about a break-in led to his rearrest. On the 10th of March, 2021, 28-year-old Eli Villalobos fatally stabbed 33-year-old Artemio Guzman Alvera and critically injured another. Facing charges for second-degree murder and unlawful use of a weapon, he received additional charges for first-degree burglary and second-degree escape. Number 11. A stroke of luck. A lucky prisoner found favor with Mother Luck as he was being led, along with other prisoners, into the prison facility through the garage door. As the officers hustled the group out of the van, he casually slipped away unnoticed and stealthily slipped behind the transport van. When engaging with deadly criminals, guards must stay alert and ready. Nevertheless, jail workers are only human and can get exhausted by the goings at the prison. Hence, being distracted is a possibility. And for the prisoner, it was their lucky day. Having slipped away from the group undetected, the day just kept getting better as the lucky prisoner found keys in the ignition. The guards had forgotten to take it out as they led the prisoners into the facility. Oh, what joy must have been in his heart as he put the pedal to the metal and drove right through the garage door into sweet freedom. Unfortunately, good fortune never lasts and could be followed by immense bad luck. After escaping, the man did not ride off into the sunset, but into a tree. He crashed the van and trapped himself, becoming a sitting duck for the police who came to his rescue. He was subsequently put in his cell, ending his lucky spree. Number 10. Michael Maldonado. A video released by Porter County officials on March 26, 2021, showed Michael Maldonado jumping out of a police squad car. He then fled the Porter County Jail's Sally Port through a garage door and eluded the authorities for a day. The 25-year-old had been arrested during a traffic stop for unlawful possession of a syringe, possession of paraphernalia, driving while suspended, and 2 counts of resisting law enforcement. At the jail, the officers had gone to secure their weapons when movement was sighted in the car. Michael had moved from the passenger seat into the driver's seat, and as the garage door was closing, he opened the driver's door and fled out under the closing garage door. At 1:40 p.m., the police received a call from an employee of Pratt Industries on Division Road reporting his gray 2013 Ford Focus had been stolen from the parking lot. Believing Michael was responsible for the theft, the sheriff's office took action, and the Ford Focus was found shortly before 3:40 p.m. Michael was caught in Burns Harbor the next day after an extensive search by Porter County Valparaiso and Portage police officers, along with the Lake County Sheriff's Department helicopter unit. There is little doubt that the desperado would be slammed with additional jail time. Number 9. Could it be injustice? When Sarah Jo Pender fell in love with Richard Hall, it had been roses and bloom. Although Richard had a criminal history, Sarah believed she had a future with him, and they moved in together in an apartment they shared with another couple, Andrew Cataldi and Tricia Nordman. On a fateful night in 2000, an argument between Richard Hall and Andrew Cataldi turned violent, and both Cataldi and Nordman lost their lives. Despite her firm stance that she was innocent, Sarah was handed a 110-year jail sentence and imprisoned at Rockville Correctional Facility. Finding no luck in proving her innocence through the justice system, Sarah resolved to escape from prison. To aid her escape, she seduced a correction officer. She also promised him $15,000 if the escape was successful. On August 4, 2008, she slipped out of her cell, changed into civilian clothes, and was driven out of the prison by Spittler. She met up with another former inmate, Jamie Long, who played a role in her escape and managed to reach Chicago, where she lived under a fake identity. Unfortunately, a neighbor recognized her from a TV show about fugitives and reported it to the police. She was sent back to prison, but her story caught the public's interest, and many believe she was wrongfully convicted. She continues to fight for her freedom, but justice still eludes her. Number 8. Facebook selfies. On August 24, 2014, Nicholas Grove escaped Payette County Jail by scaling a razor wire fence. The escape was caught on camera, and it goes to say that Grove was as nimble as a cat. The fence was topped with razor wire and had cut others who attempted to jump it, but Grove overcame it effortlessly. The guard standing 50 feet away could do little to stop him, as the prisoner was up and over the fence within seconds. Despite his impressive agility, Nicholas Grove was as dumb as a rock. After escaping, Grove took to Facebook to detail his days post-escape. He carelessly posted selfies, and by tracking his Facebook page, the police discovered he was residing in Cancun, Mexico. A year later, he was finally tracked down and arrested. Number 7. For fear of the motherland. A North Korean defector, Ju Xianjian, went viral after a video of his escape was posted on the internet. Ju was a North Korean coal miner who swam across a river to a Chinese village in Tumen City, Jilin Province, in 2013. He was arrested later that year, and in 2014 was sentenced to 11 years in prison for illegal border crossing, larceny, and robbery, followed by his deportation, according to a court judgment. On October 18, 2021, Ju broke free from prison and executed a dramatic escape that made some believe he was a member of the North Korean military. It included using a rope to damage an electric fence by short circuit and jumping off a high prison wall. He spent 40 days on the run in the biting winter cold before being recaptured. The fugitive had only 2 years left to complete his sentence. It is believed he had escaped to avoid deportation to North Korea. North Korean defectors who are sent back to their home country can face severe consequences, including torture and sexual abuse, according to Human Rights Watch. Ju could face execution if he's returned to his motherland. Number 6. The long arm of the judge. In this video, we witness a remarkable scene that cannot be forgotten so easily. Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard are standing trial in a Lewis County courthouse. Tanner faces charges of reckless driving and driving with a suspended license, while Cody is charged with second-degree burglary, first-degree trafficking, and stolen property. He is also being charged with third-degree driving with a suspended license and 2 warrants for failure to appear in court. No deputies are present, and the prisoners decide to take advantage of this. Cody bolts first, and Tanner follows. A bystander's attempt to stop them is in vain, and with no deputies present, it seems like the men have gotten away. In a surprising twist, Judge Roy Buzzard springs to action. He rips off his robe and gives chase. He closes in on Cody just as he runs past the third-floor stairwell, but Tanner escapes. After running past a few blocks, Tanner gets a change of heart and is apprehended. Both men are charged with second-degree escape in addition to their original charges. Tanner receives 1 year and 1 day, while Cody is sentenced to just over 3 years behind bars. This daring courthouse escape proves that running from the law is never a wise choice. Justice catches up sooner or later. Number 5. The sensational escape of El Chapo. In the 2010 the Sinaloa cartel was the deadliest drug cartel in Mexico, and at its helm was the ruthless Joaquin Guzman, aka El Chapo. There was one problem though. El Chapo was in prison, and the cartel needed to get him out. El Chapo's sensational escape would stamp his infamy in Mexico's underground and the world. The following surveillance video from El Chapo's cell in 2015 shows the drug kingpin pacing around his cell. He goes to the shower and returns, sits on his bed, and removes his sandals. He returns to the shower and squats. It is the last time he appears in the video. When correctional officers come to check on him, they are shocked by what they find. El Chapo had a mile-long tunnel dug right underneath the prison facility, and it led from his cell to an unfinished building owned by his wife. It was an elaborate construction, fitted with lighting, tracks, and an adapted motorcycle he rode to freedom. El Chapo evaded capture for 2 years, and his legendary escape has been likened to the Shawshank Redemption. He was eventually recaptured and jailed at the ADX Florence Supermax prison in Colorado, United States. Number 4. Kai Changpan. In 2017, Kai Changpan was put on death row in 2017 after being found guilty of smuggling 110 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine into the country. Fast forward to 2020, and a security camera recorded him as he emerged from a sewage tunnel to escape jail. Changpan planned his escape for approximately 6 months, digging a 30-meter-long tunnel using a screwdriver, chisel, and crowbar. The death row inmate escaped prison through the sewers after digging a tunnel from his cell, just like in the hit movie, The Shawshank Redemption. Kai Changpan broke out of Tangerang prison, near Jakarta, Indonesia, through a 30-meter-long, 50 cm wide tunnel he carved using a screwdriver, chisel, and crowbar. Incredibly, he timed the jailbreak to coincide with the changing of guards. CCTV footage showed the desperate fugitive emerging from the sewage pipe network and calmly walking away before disappearing into a dark alleyway. Many have likened him to Shawshank Redemption's Andy Dufresne, but we have no doubt he was a lot smellier. Number 3. Vlogging from jail. Prison escapes are audacious and risky, and most inmates would prefer if their plans were never discovered. That was not true for Adam Nayeri, Bac Duong, and Jonathan Tew. The trip did not just escape from a Californian jail, They made a 15-minute video documenting their daring escape. An attorney released the video and has Nayeri doing the voiceover. In what a police spokesperson called making light of criminal actions, Nayeri narrates the entire episode, and the video was heavily edited to show most parts of the escape. The video shows the jail's interior, with dozens of inmates in cell blocks. It also shows Bac Duong smiling for the camera. Next, it shows Nayeri revealing a cut metal screen which he slides aside and enters a vent. In a somewhat comical twist, his hand emerges to give a thumbs up to the camera. Following that scene, the trio is shown in the building's plumbing system, with Chu squinting from the light of the contraband cell phone. Although it is not shown on camera, Nayeri narrates that they had climbed into the plumbings using strong ropes. After leaving the facility, the inmates take a cab driver hostage, and he drives them to Santa Cruz. Nayeri and Thieu would later have a falling out over whether to kill the driver or not. The trio spent their freedom at a beach and, for a week, eluded the authorities. Duong later turned himself in while his companions were recaptured in San Francisco. It is hard to tell if the vlog was mere foolishness or a vain attempt to gain their 15 minutes of fame. We leave that for you to decide and tell us in the comments section. Number 2. Clauvino da Silva. The escape attempt of Brazilian gangster Clauvino da Silva is both comical and bizarre. Even more, it shows the cruel desperation of the drug trafficker who was ready to trade his daughter for his freedom. Also known as Shorty for his small stature, Da Silva was stopped by prison officials as he tried to walk out of the Jerichino prison dressed as his daughter. In a video released by the authorities, Shorty is unrecognizable in a black wig, pink t-shirt, and a silicone mask fashioned in his daughter's likeness. Da Silva is the leader of the notorious Red Command, a drug trafficking gang in Rio de Janeiro. He was serving a 75-year sentence when he planned the bizarre escape that involved his daughter taking his place in prison. He would have succeeded in escaping, but officials noticed his nervousness and stopped him. He was returned to his cell, but unfortunately, the story does not have a happy ending, as Shorty was found hanging in his cell 3 days later. Number 1. Desperate measures. The average size of a food hatch is 12 by 6 inches. That is the size of a small laptop or a medium-sized picture frame. While we have to note that the size can vary among prisons, the basic idea is that only small objects can pass through them. Unless you lock up Rustam Shakhrutinov in a cell. Rustam was a 25-year-old Russian arrested for armed robbery. He was jailed in a detention center in Izbarbosh, a southwestern town in the Republic of Dagestan, Russia. However, Rustam was not ready to stay for long. In a truly puzzling video, Rustam squeezes his entire body through the tiny food slot cut into his cell door. The footage is unexplainable and has to be seen to be believed. Using serpentine movements, the inmate manages to pass through and tumbles outside his cell, butt naked. He quickly puts on his clothes, which he probably pushed outside through the hatch before his shocking feat, and exits the facility. We don't know if he was recaptured, but we have evidence of the desperate measures prison inmates would take to escape.